a teacher of, you're an English pre-service teacher, or you're an English educator, that you cannot learn from this, whatever I've learned from it. So moving forward, I would like to also say the fact that we are in the arena of generative AI, artificial intelligence, and people are so scared of their jobs being taken, especially teachers are asking, generative AI is here and my job will be taken. I'm telling you, no, it will not be taken, because Gen AI cannot enact the relational process of tapping into emotions. So if you're a teacher who knows how to tap into emotions, who knows how to develop responsive teaching practices, that is the human touch that you bring that cannot be replicated by Gen AI. So with that, I'm hoping you also take away this confidence that you are special for our future learners if you keep at the forefront of your teaching the fact that you want to know how are your students traveling, by what emotions they are feeling. So let's open it up and have a look. Before we get on to my side of the story, can I please ask you to give me some opening reflection on the following questions? So I've got a Mentimeter up, and I would like you to let me know if your teachers or lecturers care about how you felt while you learned when you were a student. You are such an active audience. I love it. Thank you for the thumbs up. Amazing. I already feel like I'm with you guys there. It doesn't feel like I'm zooming from this end. You've got great energy. Well done. I'll give it 10 more seconds. The pattern is explicitly on the screen, and it doesn't come as a surprise. I'm so thankful to the 5 on the left-hand side of the screen who've had teachers who saw them in class, really, through their emotional learning experiences. So well done to those teachers who have been putting emotion at the forefront of their teaching. Thank you. I'm going to move on to the next slide. And the next slide is about what is one word that you felt that you can use to describe that feeling of when your teacher did or did not consider your feelings. So one word to describe how that made you feel, that you were not, your emotions were not taken into consideration most of the time in your learning journey. So yes, neglected. Absolutely. You can see emotions coming through, disappointment. Absolutely. So those whose emotions were seen, they were feeling proud and happy. Exactly. Some are feeling neutral about the fact that their emotions were not tapped into. Most people are. I love it. So. Mm. Wow, you guys are amazing. Look at this energy in this room. It is. I've never seen such active participants. I'm so glad that my journey of keynote speaking with international audience has started in Indonesia, where you guys are just amazing. I don't think anyone could match up to this energy. Thank you. So we can see what our um, participants today have felt, what their learning journeys have been like, mostly unpleasant. There are some blessed ones who have had pleasant teachers, amazing teachers. And so moving on to then this topic being prime in what we felt as students when we were students, and we continue to be students because we're always learning. And moving on to what did I learn and what are we going to learn today? So there are three things. Thank you for your participation so much. Uh, the three things I would like to bring to you today is just the understanding of why do emotions matter? Why is it not an add-on? It's not a tokenistic aspect. It is not an airy-fairy aspect of living. It is not a weak thing to say emotion matters. So understanding some literature behind this, so I'll kind of bring in some literature. This is an evidence-informed, research-informed practice that I'm bringing to you. It's not just something that I've made up in my mind, but it is from my PhD. So one of the outcomes was a model of emotionally responsive teaching practice. I would like to show you that so that if you want to continue to use this in your work, in your classrooms, you can actually access it through an established peer-reviewed resource, which is my thesis, and I'm already in the process of developing Q1 journals from it. And the last thing I'd like to show you is some of the practices that teachers did. And there's three routines that I will talk to you about. So two of the routines are from my PhD, and one of the routine is from what I do currently in my classrooms. So moving on to why do emotions matter? Well, imagine yourself, would you like to learn from someone who doesn't care about what you feel? Would you like to learn, and most of the time, students are walking into a classroom where this teacher is foreign to them. It's a new teacher. There's no rapport built yet. So how will you build the rapport with your students? The very humane thing to do is to tap into emotions. Because why does it matter? Is because students will persist, students will perform, and students will engage with your work when they know you care. And whenever they face unpleasant emotions such as confusion, frustration, anxiety, they are signaling to us, the educators and the teachers, that they are stuck, that their learning is not progressing. So we have to do something about it. So these are pedagogical evidence. And if we ignore our students' emotions that are telling us something about their learning journey, then either if we ignore it, their progress is stopped. And if we attend to those emotions, it leads to persistence, it leads to resilience, and it leads to pleasant emotional outcomes where our kids are happy. And you don't have to be happy all the time, but you have to be able to turn the unpleasant emotion around to make it pleasant. And the main person in there is the teacher who needs to give that creative space and that trust to the kids that they can tell you what they're feeling. So really, we all know we have emotions in the classroom and they're huge. They're the elephant, like you said. But are our teachers explicitly trained to recognize and to respond to them? And this is the thing. I'm writing a book chapter in Routledge, and it's going to be coming out hopefully by the end of this year. It's for all pre-service teachers and educators, and it is how to recognize and respond to student emotions. So that's why emotion matters. So what was the model that came out of my PhD? The model is basically showing teachers that, look, there are some things you can do in your classroom. For example, and I'm going to elaborate on this later after this slide, but can you see the first box where I'm pointing as sources of emotion, as sources of awareness? There are two sources that came from my PhD. There was a diary that the students filled, and there's a dialogue session between the students and the teacher and myself that happened. So this was the source of the awareness of student emotions. What are they feeling? Why are they feeling it? What is it all related to regarding science inquiry, which is the context of my PhD? Now, the teacher looks at all those things that the students are writing and talking about and separates them into, oh, these are the barriers and these are the affordances in my class at the moment. What can I do to knock down the barriers and to make this, to enable the students to learn better? So the teacher then reflects and makes responsive teaching practices. And I'll show you a few of them. They're simple ones, which actually supports and enhances further the learning process. And this cycle keeps going. I do this in every class of mine, and I'll show you how, which is very, it doesn't take a lot of time. But this is where it all started, my journey of tapping in. So this was emotion diaries, and I'll show you that, and co-generative dialogue. Now, not a lot of students know how to articulate emotions. Some students are even told, stop talking about emotions at home. Like, we don't talk about this a lot. And some of the homes don't value this very important evidence in our life of what are we feeling. What we feel is real, and it's unseen till we talk about it. You know, it's important that we talk about these things. So if you want to give some language to what is emotion, you can tell students it's what you feel, when you feel it, what triggers that feeling, and what is the meaning that you attach to that feeling. So it's all these different things that help us put a label to things. But I'm totally against the fact that you label first. We can't label other people's feelings, because when someone feels frustrated, another person might feel confused. So it's how they talk about it that helps us understand what is it that they are feeling? What is the emotion really? So what did we do? This was my PhD context. It is set in it's a suburban school, co-educational, independent public school, and 2 chemistry year 10 classrooms. So in this school, I invited all the teachers to take up my research because I believed in it. And Damon and Mary, pseudonyms, took up the challenge and said, Subs, I want you to come to my classroom and I want you to help us understand our students' emotions. So these students were doing 5 weeks of inquiry. It was a science inquiry, and they were doing group work first, followed by an individual scientific report. So I guess in English, you could be doing group work and then you could be submitting something individually. There must be some inquiry-based learning that you do. So, yep, I took that up. I was very happy and I took in something called an emotion diary. This is what it looks like. It had 2 questions. Emotion I felt. Describe what you or others were doing, what happened, what or whom the emotions were directed at. And then emotions I noticed in others. So I didn't give them a label to tick. That is more of a quantitative study. I wanted to know what these students, how in their own words, in the student voice, could they put their perspective forward. Now, students from different cultures speak in different ways and articulate in different ways. So a grade 7 student might say this in a very different way compared to a grade 12 student, compared to a pre-service higher education teacher student. So the more open-ended you keep this, the more you'll know about their perspective. Hence, I used an emotion diary. This helped me capture the students' lived experience. So in the last 10 minutes of the class, every student was given a diary and they wrote about what they're feeling enabled in and what they're feeling disabled in. So how are they, what is it they're feeling at the end of this lesson that the teacher did, and where are they stuck, where are they okay? And this helped bring out everything to the teacher of what she wanted to know and he wanted to know. So I went home and I looked at all the emotion diaries and I'm going through what are the patterns that are coming across. As a researcher, I'm looking at the patterns. I'm looking at what are these students confused about, frustrated about, happy about, angry about, and I made summaries. Took it down to the teacher the very next day. So by the afternoon, I'd made the summary, emailed the teacher, and giving it to them, the teachers could see what were the patterns. And they were feeling overwhelmed because we only have 70 minutes.
Ruangannya Pak Sahrul, Pak.
Pak siapa?
Pak Sahrul.
Pak Tohri.
Pak Sahrul.
Sorry.
Pak Fahri.
Pak Sahrul.
So they only have 70 minutes to do this. How could we do it and get everyone on board? How could we answer and address every student's concern? So then I introduced to them a core generative dialogue, which is a reflective discussion, basically. A 30-minute lunchtime reflective discussion when the unpleasant emotions were going out of the roof. There were a huge amount of unpleasant emotions. This core gen or core generative dialogue is a structured democratic platform which takes away the power that the initial speaker, the last speaker who introduced me, thank you. You introduced this aspect of power relationship. This structured routine called core gen takes away that power. And in that time, the teacher, a couple of students, and myself, we sat down and we nutted it out. What is it that we are having problems with? What can we change and why? And then trial that new practice and revisit. So in this way, this cycle of formative assessment for learning in a loop, keeps repeating, ticking off all the boxes that made my kids or their kids at that time upset or stuck. So this was the place where we unpacked the diary responses. We unpacked using 4 students who came to do core gens. We heard them, we showed them the diary as well, and we said, what you are the student voices with us. Help us to move in a positive direction. So having done that, so these are 2 structured routines I've just shown you, an emotion diary and a core generative dialogue. Moving forward, I just want to show you what one of the classrooms tagged in emotions. Have a look. This is kids speaking. This is grade 10, 15-year-olds speaking about their emotions. This is from Mary's class. I'll just show you one class. So from bored towards the left is pleasant emotions. Bored towards the right is all unpleasant emotions. So having seen the 3 lessons, I summarized the patterns, took it to the teacher. She, Mary, developed some responsive teaching practices. I'll show you some of them. And then right after that, you could see that more of the pleasant emotions coming through. Well, pleasant emotions are there, but the unpleasant have started to become less. And then when we spoke to the students in the core gen, even more pleasant emotions started to come through and less unpleasant. So it is a cycle of being heard. That's what it was. It was being heard that, and everyone was engaged because they knew if they are stuck today, the teacher will know because there's a way to know about it. And so everyone there was no behavior management issues. Everyone was on board of the learning train. So some of the things these 2 teachers changed were, and this could actually transfer to your classrooms in English discipline. So when students don't know how to do certain practices, for example, graphing and data analysis, there's 17 of them who don't know. Mary cannot go to each one of them and teach them. It takes too much time. So Mary and I spoke about it in the core gen and said, what can we do? And this was during COVID. This was just when the classroom started opening up. And Mary said, aha, Excel video resource. I'm going to use dummy data and make an Excel video resource on how to graph and how to analyze the data. And then students can watch it at any time, convenient to them, and as many times as possible, and be able to do their data analysis sections. The other thing that Mary also spoke about, she was a very innovative teacher. She really cared for her class. She wanted to help all of them, and she had a great rapport with them. So she said that every group who did the experiments have different problems. So different problems makes it very hard for me to do a whole class instruction because there's so many different problems. So what she did is she made them sit in small groups around the lab, and she would move. She would rotate and go to each group and ask what the problem is that they were flagging in their diaries. And then it was so customized and tailor-made to their problem, what she suggested, and she helped them with. So this was taken very positively by the class. A third strategy she used was parallel writing. This is amazing for people who are struggling with writing. So this was, she used, well, the students had to write a rationale for their experiment, and none of them knew how to write that. So she knew this was a big elephant in the room, and she introduced a differentiated strategy to reduce their anxiety. What this was this. She wrote a parallel writing example using English as the context. Students learned about it, what to write, how to introduce sentence starters, everything. And then they transferred those skills to science. So this worked wonders. Everyone came out learning so much, and she color-coded different aspects that you need to write a good rationale. She was amazing. And then we've got the last practice that one of the male teachers, he used to be a lecturer before, but he joined the teaching force in a secondary school. So he believed in discovery learning. He didn't believe in structuring things from the very beginning. He wanted students to deep dive, panic, and then work harder to swim through. But it didn't work. So what happened was, when the drafts were due, the draft assessment, almost everyone failed, which I brought to him again and said, look, Damon, this is not working. We really need to look at what they're writing about their emotions, and we need to help them. So then he understood that, yep, students are just drowning, and he scaffolded the scientific report structure What to put in each section, the students didn't know. They had never done it to that level in grade 10. So he helped put prompts, he helped put some examples, and that clarified all the expectations, after which the students just wanted to finish their structured report because it made sense to them. What to do, how to move on. There was no longer a barrier. So those were some of the responsive teaching practices from my PhD. Now, this is just in a cumulative graph. Have a look at what Damon and Mary's responsive teaching practices did. So their pleasant emotions in Damon's class was far less. And after responding to their scaffolding structure, look at how the pleasant emotions have gone up. And the unpleasant emotions before were much higher. They came down after the responsive teaching practices. Mary's got a far higher rate of response, and she also actively responded to her students' unpleasant emotions. So all in all, the takeaway message is, if you inform your teaching practices using student emotions, it gives them an inclusive classroom and it makes them seen. And with that, they are more engaged, they are more enabled, and they progress. Now, this is the last routine that I brought in to show you, because this is one that I made at my university. Because I couldn't give them emotion diaries. It didn't work. It took too much time in our classrooms. And core generative dialogue would take some more time out of my teaching lesson. So what I designed was an innovative practice. I call it the emotion exit ticket Padlet. This is just hypothetical data because I'm not allowed to show you my students' work unless I've got ethics approval for it. But this is what I put on at the end of my lessons. About 10 minutes left, I put on a Padlet. And in here, students cannot see each other's names. They can see how the whole class is responding, what the whole class is feeling. So it's a collective and anonymous platform. As a teacher, I get to see straight away in real time what my students are feeling, where are they stuck. I even see mental health aspects coming through. And in the past, my students have said, the anxiety that I felt around this problem just washed away because I could see so many others feeling the same way. And they felt like they were seen and heard to the extent that they could say anything in class because their names would not appear. So this is another live way I now track my pre-service teacher satisfaction, barriers, affordances, and I help them. And the biggest positive tick for educators and teachers are, I don't get any emails from my students. My email box is practically without any student emails because we do things like this, because their questions get answered right there when they ask it. So it is a practice I would encourage you to take forth with your teachers, teacher educators. When you go out and do your practical placements in the field, this is something my students have also used as they have started teaching. And that innovation awarded me a Teaching and Learning Award last year in December because I showed an innovation and how students celebrated this new practice that I brought into my classroom. So I'm very thankful that my students are very actively taking this up because some of my pre-service teachers are now in-service teachers and they are emailing me back and they are telling me, oh my God, Subs, you know, my kids are loving this emotion exit tickets because they are telling me what is disabling them, what they don't understand. And nobody else knows in the class that they are struggling with that. And they don't feel embarrassed to say it all out because it's anonymous. So this is also helping those other students who usually had behavior management issues. They are able to self-regulate their emotions because they're able to tell the teacher what is stopping them, or what is it that they love that their teacher is doing. So basically, this is my journey from the PhD classroom to what I am now doing with my pre-service teachers. And I love the fact that I get to know and provide enabling ramps for them. It is such a satisfying job to be able to change lives. And when you teach, you really get to know how much they've learned because they tell you in the emotion exit ticket padlets. You know how much, and you know what to do, and you know what to make for them coming into the next lesson. So it is a no-brainer, really. It is the best thing you could do for your students. So with that, I'm hoping that you took something away from this, and I would really like to get some reflection from your end on how this has helped you in reflecting about emotions. Where do you place yourself in terms of knowing about emotion and its power in teaching and teaching practice? Could you please give me some indication? I would love to know how it has helped. Excellent. For the people who want to try one more, my next question, you can write down what you want to try. I've got another Mentimeter slide where you can write what you want to try. I would love to know about it, and I could easily collaborate with you in helping you through that if you come to any barriers in trialing it out. Thank you. So excited to see what you want to try out. I can't wait for the next slide. I'll wait for another 10 seconds, and then I might want to see what your next move is. I'm so curious to see this in the English context, English discipline context. And I would love to work with anyone who has got ideas of projects in their own classrooms, maybe an intervention that you want to design, some action research you want to design in your own classrooms. This is very relational and very important, especially for student voice and student perspective for teachers and you know, the service that we provide as educators. And I would love to, so whoever's said that I'm still unsure, please let me know. If my email address is on the slides, the last slide, which I'll show you. Please do let me know how else could I help you with in learning about how to respond to emotions. I'll move on to the next slide so that I can see what people are thinking to try as one of your emotionally responsive teaching practice routine. Please let me know what you are excited to try. Nice. Yes. Emotion exit tickets are the quickest way. I think you will save a lot of time if you use that in your classrooms. Fun game, absolutely. Students want to feel happy and helps them learn better. Excellent. Yes, Excel. I'm glad someone is actually going to use Excel video resources. Absolutely. And you know, the students who are absent, they can always look at your Padlets and know the kind of issues that the students had experienced and expressed. So it acts as an asynchronous resource, especially during exam times. They can always go back to seeing what was my question that I had and what did the teacher reply to that. So these are the different ways and different places. And what I did realize is a lot of unpleasant emotions around assessment time and a lot of unpleasant emotions when I first introduced assessments. So those are the times when unpleasant emotions go up. But that's the very time when the teacher, like myself, knows what can I do for my students that will tick off the boxes. So I make, for example, checklists that align with the rubric. So I have almost till this semester, I've had 100% pass rate, is because I actually tap into my emotions and my students' emotions as we learn together. So as long as students are in your class and they're learning with you, there is no fear of failing anymore because they're engaged. They want to learn from you because they know you will make sure there are enablers in the class. So thank you so much for these excellent report scaffolding. Exactly. It always works. I am doing that with my university students as well. I'm so glad that some of these responsive teaching practices from science is actually coming in handy for even the English discipline students. Writing, so, yep. Yes. Yes. And I would also like to say that if you are going to be that teacher who will use emotion diaries or core gens or emotion exit ticket Padlets, you need to be able to first introduce that tool to your students, tell them why you're using that tool, and use that tool in areas and times of your lessons where you are doing something that is tough. You know, it is hard. So inquiry was a hard thing to begin with. Data analysis is a hard thing. So I placed the emotion diaries in places when they were doing things that were difficult, because that creates that formative feedback loop. Because they're finding certain things difficult, the teacher needs to now emotionally inform their next teaching lesson. So you don't have to do that every lesson. You have to be strategic in where to use these tools. But the students need to know that they are safe in doing it, that you care, and that this is a legitimate tool that you will work with in trying to address their learning needs. So that's perfect. Thank you so much. I would like to, this brings me to my final slide, and I'm going to say terima kasih. I'm hoping I said that the right way. Thank you so much, and for this wonderful opportunity. I am actually honored to be with you all, and I somehow felt that there was a very strong connection between you and I. It didn't feel like I was on Zoom from the way we were all so active and participating. having jokes. Thank you so much. And I'm hoping that leaders of different programs, teacher education programs, also bring this very important pedagogical evidence into the way they design policies, into the way they want the practices operationalizing in different departments. Because without our students, we will not exist. Without our learners, the future of our country is doomed. So really, this is a very basic, fundamental place to begin if we want a great country moving forward. Thank you so much. And I hope that I get to connect with more people on LinkedIn and answer any questions that you have now. Thank you.
Pause for Dr. Subhashini.
I'll just stop sharing. Give me one moment.
Dr. Subhashini, I was observing myself while you were presenting. And I observed myself, and I was hoping that the students observe themselves. Did you observe your feeling while you were listening to the lecture? Yeah? Okay, right. Oh, first thing first, the camera dude, I feel emotionally intimidated by my big face on the screen. Like, okay, right. Yeah, right. So emotionally responsive teaching. Before we go to the Q&A, which I think many of you would like to have some questions, I would like to ask an opening question to our discussion. It has something to do with the way Indonesian teachers or even parents see education or just parenting in general. Dr. Subal,
Yeah.
would you say that certain level of discomfort might be needed for the students? Because I believe that for development to occur, you need a little tension that you should resolve. So how do you differentiate this negative input, I would say, compared to the positive input that makes students grow? Like boredom, for example, do you always see boredom as something negative? Or it's making an impact in any way? Like boredom is not necessarily negative, but boredom is something that can create developmental space in a way. If you would like to comment on that first before the questions from the audience.
Sure. So it is important to understand and to make your students understand that unpleasant and pleasant emotions are part of learning because we are alive. So what you feel has a reason. I, as a teacher, am interested to know why you feel that way, because that will help me help you. So it is almost like we do not want our students not to feel unpleasant emotions, because unpleasant means you are alive, you're feeling something because you care about something. So it is important for a teacher to be able to have this chat up front first with their students, that nothing really is negative or positive. That's why I don't use those words. It is unpleasant or pleasant, but it is part of that loop. And I am right here as a teacher to help you move when you are in the unpleasant side of the loop.
Thank you for clarifying, Dr. Chuba. And now I would like to lead the Q&A. First, students, how many of you, raise your hand if you have questions, please. Could we do this in a game, like the Mentimeters, so you would be more active in doing this Q&A? Have questions, everybody? Just raise your hand a little bit. I'll know. Okay, Georgie. Okay, we have a question from Georgie. Then we have a question from the student. Okay, so right. So can we have the mic, please? Now, the way we do this, would you please stand in front of the camera over there and face the lens and then ask the question so Dr. Suba can face you. Yeah. Okay. Can you please, Georgie, would you please say, yeah. And then go to the in front of the camera and sit. Okay. Thank you so much. Okay, now, Georgie, would you please follow in the back? Yes, we do it. Okay, now anybody who wants to have a question, please stand behind the people who have been lining up there. Who are lining up there. Yeah, if you have questions, just stand behind yeah, the questioners. Right, yes, go.
I would like to the routine that you have is about emotion diaries, dialogues, and emotion exit because that's such a wonderful routine to do. But would like to ensure that the student will through
Kalau ada yang mau nanya lagi, boleh berdiri di belakangnya ya, biar efektif.
I would like to ask you on how do we make students actively participate in the study routines that you gave us and to ensure that we're not the only one who's excited about these routines. Thank you.
That's a great question. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for that
Go to
question.
the next question so you can answer it in one go, Dr. Suba.
Okay. Okay.
Right, good.
Hi, thank you very much. It was really interesting talk. I was just wondering how you would transfer these skills that you're proposing to teaching younger audiences, because a lot of these work really well, clearly, for older audiences. You've said year 10 and above. But interestingly, I think the younger audiences might have a lot of emotions that aren't necessarily addressed as well, and might not be as able to convey their emotions through text or without the sort of technological side of things. So it'd be interesting to hear what you have to say about that. Thank you.
Thank you
Great.
for those wonderful questions.
Okay, so two questions from the first. Yeah, go to the next one. Now we want to have more questions. Oh, you're feeling unpleasant. Okay, I understand that. Okay.
All right, thank you. So before you mentioned about small group discussion to replace full class instructions, and my question is, are student-centered strategies always more effective than traditional full class instructions, or do they on specific context? Thank you.
Dr. How are you feeling?
I'm well, thank you.
Okay, yeah. I'm just I want to check on you because I'm practicing this emotionally responsive teaching. So you're feeling good now, ready to answer the questions?
Absolutely.
Okay, go.
So the first one was, how do you make the students excited about this practice in your classrooms? I think that's what I got, because the teachers are excited about it. How do the students get excited? It starts off with an introductory session. You have to have a chat with your classes about why you are going to do what you're going to do. Unless everyone knows why this practice will become a normal practice in our classrooms, why you are making them seen, they will not take it up. And a lot of the students, when I did the PhD, they would quickly note down some of the things as their 70-minute lesson was being completed. They would note down, this is the issue I have, this is the issue. I would walk around and see that they were writing their issues, because they knew that at the end of the lesson, their teacher will actually get to know about all their issues. So they were engaged from the very beginning. So it is all about an introductory session with your students if you want to make this work. it becomes a structured routine in a class, and everyone knows about it, and they know exactly what to do. That was the first question, and I'm hoping I've answered that. The second was a very lovely question from the lovely lady there on how do we use some of this kind of routine, but for a younger audience. Now, for primary school students, what works usually is emoticons. So instead of writing an open-ended response, they could circle emoticons. And maybe you could have just a little line underneath saying why. Sometimes they can articulate, depending on the student's ability, why they're feeling the way they did, and sometimes they won't. But at least it'll give you a pattern that is emerging in your classroom. So emoticons for the young learners and diaries, as well as cogents and emotion exit tickets for the older learners in secondary schools. And the third question you had was about small group discussion and when should that be used? I think is it related to content or is it related to just using it because traditional whole class instruction is not good? Now, the teacher is the pedagogical leader in the classroom. They are doing things using different teaching strategies because some things work in a certain context and some things don't. So explicit teaching a new concept usually is done using direct instruction because that's the place where you're introducing a new concept. But then there's other things like labs, like practicals that can be done in groups. So really, small group discussions can be introduced if there are common aspects that people are feeling they are not good at. For example, you might say, get into groups, get into these 3 groups, data analysis being an issue, report writing being an issue, and parallel writing being an issue. And there it is, 3 different groups already. So the teacher doesn't have to go to 28 students, rather 3 groups with common problems and work with each of the groups. So that's where small group discussion will really work. I'm hoping I've answered your questions.
Yes. That answers the question, but of course it raises more questions, doctor. And the more questions will come. Anybody? Okay, so we have a question from the lecturer, and I believe he wrote articles about emotion and teaching in English teaching, especially about anxiety and other aspects of emotion and teaching. You have to. I insist. Okay, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. The topic is very interesting. So emotions really matters because less an emotion can lead to or can facilitate learning, while according to Dr. Shuba, so unpleasant emotion can impede learning. I'd like to ask whether the identification of emotions is activity-based and individual-based, because based on what we have heard, that particular activity can trigger different emotions to different students. That's the first one. And the next one, do we need then to do a kind of emotions-related needs analysis, okay, in order to ensure that the process of learning will be running well? And frankly speaking, I'm still questioning the difference between emotions and feeling, yeah, because in the presentation it was stated that we need to identify how the student, what emotions student feel. Does it mean that emotion is short-lasting while feeling is long-lasting? Because in Indonesia, for example, before we start our study, we usually ask the student to lead the prayer. I don't know whether it has to do with how to create positive or pleasant emotions among students in order to facilitate their learning. And okay, emotions, again, as far as I read, is contagious, meaning that if somebody is expressing unpleasant emotions, it can trigger other people, other students to feel the same way. Okay? And do we then not need to create a kind of, or to train students how to be emotionally resilient? Okay, because the same triggers I said before can cause different types of emotion. It can be pleasant or unpleasant. Don't you think that we need also to help students to be emotionally resilient in order to be better able to cope with the triggers in the learning? And lastly, sorry, Dr. Subha, because we talk about emotion, we need to think also about the teacher's emotion. Okay, if the teachers show unpleasant emotions, of course it will directly, I don't know what you would say, directly or indirectly affect the learner's emotion. Okay, that's my question. Please, I'm waiting for your response. Thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank you.
so we will isolate the questions. Dr. Suba, you have to respond this directly. I can see the faces here, Dr. Suba. They are a little emotional and confused when two experts of emotion in teaching have conversation. So please make us more confused, Dr. Suba. Go on.
No, it's all good. Look, when I think people feel unpleasant emotions when, well, this is the research. People feel unpleasant emotions when there are negative sanctions. So you have an expectation and it wasn't met. That's when unpleasant emotions happen in the simplest way possible. You're expecting something and it didn't happen. Yeah. So brings me to the differentiation between emotion versus feeling. Emotion is always, so research says emotion involves epistemic cognition, which means thinking around the aboutness. So emotion is always attached to a conceptual thought in your mind, whereas feeling can be physiological, just feeling cold, I'm feeling hot. So emotion has a bit more data to it in terms of learning contexts. Hence the word emotion has been used. Emotion can be discrete, which means it's a label only. That's again research. So happy, sad, confused. These are discrete labels. Or you can have whatever I've just suggested where they say, what is happy looking like? What is frustration looking like? So when you read your students' comments, you know the lived experience. And the lived experience, which is articulated, is much more deeper than a word. That's why it is very, very important for our students to be able to express. Now, emotional resilience will develop from a practice like what I have just shown you. When students are uncertain, what will happen to this feeling that I'm having? No one cares. That's when the breakdown happens. But the emotional resilience will surface when a student knows that their emotions are being looked into. Their teacher will inform their practice using what they're unhappy or frustrated about. And you know what? Sometimes it could be out of your hands as an educator, but you can then get the counseling counselors and others involved because it might be something bigger than what your classroom is going through. It might be something that this person is going through back at home. But as a teacher who is teaching a holistic individual, I'm not just teaching science, I'm teaching humans, and their well-being matters to me. Their well-being means their success at university or in the high school or in any classroom. So I really want to know what they're feeling in that classroom and what's stopping them from progressing. So that's where emotional resilience develops in a student, in a learner, because they know how to be aware of their feeling, why they are feeling it, and what they want seen to take that feeling away. They're writing about it. That practice, repeatedly doing that practice, makes you a resilient person because it's all about emotional regulation coming in. Because you're able to say it. A lot of times when people are not able to say what they feel is when the breakdown happens, the opposite of the resilience, the derailing happens. And not a lot of people actually stop and want to hear what you feel. At least in my classroom, I know my students know that I want to know what they're feeling. Because that's basically engagement for me. That is the sign of engagement when they want to come to class, even though there's an online option, but they want to come to class. They want to talk. They want to meet others who are feeling the same things. I'm hoping that I have managed to answer some of your questions. And if I haven't, let me know which one I have left.
There's emotion. The teacher's emotion, will it affect student? That's the question.
Yes, okay. So the teacher's emotion all comes down to the human, I guess, in front of the class. Of course, if a teacher is throwing pans and, growling at students and yelling at them, that'll affect the student's learning experience totally. But I'm hoping as adults and with more developed prefrontal cortex, we as educators can actually model emotion regulation better than what our learners might be used to. So, of course, anything in the room can affect emotional learning experience, but the fact that I will know through my structured routine what is it that is bothering my students is my mantra. That's who I am. I'm here for my learners and will do everything to take them forward.
Okay, there's a follow-up question.
Sorry. So I was asking about, whether the identification of students' emotion is activity-based, because I couldn't catch very clearly whether, for example, pair work, we'll ask the student about their feeling about being paired with somebody, or they have to work in groups or do some kind of writing task or something. And is it individual based too? Because, let's say we have already identified the emotions the students have on particular activities, but when we have to teach another class, then don't you think that we have to do the same thing too? And it's a kind of ongoing process.
It is absolutely.
Yeah, go on, please.
Absolutely ongoing process, sir. It is. So it is activity based because there are some activities we do well as teachers. It might differentiate for certain learners and not the others. So the ones who we have done well for, based on the activity we've got, those students might report pleasant emotions. But the ones who didn't match the activity type, the differentiation, might report unpleasant emotions. So absolutely, everything to do in the classroom is activity-based and how we teach. So the pedagogy, the activities we've got for those pedagogies, that is basically what I will need them to reflect on and let me know as a teacher what my next class should be like in being able to tick off the boxes for them. So absolutely, it is a loop. It is a continuous process. Assessment for learning and building ramps for our students, it is a never stopping process because we are always learning that there's some problems somewhere. Absolutely.
So, yeah, to follow, I just want to make this a little clearer, I hope. Is it does it go into the lesson plan, like Dr. Supa? Like, is it a structured activity? For example, I'm teaching 4 classes today. Would you recommend that we spend like 15 minutes isolated activity outside the plan for the lesson for that day? Or is it more like embedded into the minutes of our class?
So that depends on what you're doing. For me, my classes are the last 5 minutes is when the emotion exit ticket Padlet goes up. So I build my canvas with my lesson for the day, and the next page is emotion exit ticket Padlet. So in the last 5 minutes, that Padlet comes up, and students know exactly what to write on it. If they're stuck with something, they say, I'm feeling frustrated because, or I am feeling happy because. And as they're doing that, everyone can see collectively and anonymously, where are we as a class? So it is my time at that time to even dive deeper. So for people who might have said some things, I'm trying to read and wonder, what can I do next to be able to help them? That is, so that is that. But if you want to design a core gen in your, maybe the introduction of your class, saying, okay, the last week we've had problems around X, Y, and Z. Let's have a core gen with a couple of your students and talk it out. What is it that is not working in our classroom? So it's all dependent on who your learners are, what you are doing, how much time you have, and what you want to get out of this as a teacher.
Right.
It is not a one size fits all. You need to know your learners and where they are to be able to use these structured routines. But for me, for the easiest one for teacher educators, it's last 5 minutes Padlets.
Last 5 minutes. So, I mean, yeah, it can go into our lesson plan, of course, of course. Right. I mean, I can see it as a very contextual demand. And now we're adding this to our work, right? Lecturer, we have to be a psychologist as well, a little. And I think FKIP needs mental warden, you know, like a mental warden. Every time when you feel stressed, everybody, who do you go to? Your friends? You go to the mental warden of FKIP. Dosen PA, your academic advisor is supposed to be your mental warden, right? Okay, yes. But now your docent or lecturer in each class, maybe you need 5 minutes to talk about your feelings in, I don't know, structured way. I think we have to be intentional. I don't think like intentional is the word here. Like we're doing that on purpose, not just something intuitive. I think intuition is really great to have, but also being intentional about that is very, very important. All right. So we still have time, and I hope you're still okay. I'm
I'm
sorry, I
okay.
have to always check with this.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
right. Okay, so we have more chances to ask questions, but before that, I'm very curious about this. What your data says about gender difference in this? Do you see it's more challenging for male students to be resilient with their emotion? We have a popular saying among the Gen Zs here. We say, lelaki tidak bercerita, or men don't tell stories, men don't share their feelings. That's a very typical male attitude. I think it's global epidemic. Now, what do you say about that? What your data says about the gender difference and how students are emotionally resilient or the lack thereof?
So the thing is, my classroom mostly has males, and they all write down. I always get all the responses. So I think it's all about the culture you have in your classroom. If you have a positive growing culture, you will always have people engaged. They will always want to tell you, what is it that we learned today that I'm stuck on? So this is not about 5 minutes of you tell me what's happening in your life. This is 5 minutes of, we just learned about, for example, how to write a rationale. Can you write a rationale? Yes or no? What's stopping you? It's that structured. So it is absolutely related to our work, their assignment, our units. But in that, sometimes you get students who start writing about other things. And that's where I meant the counseling bit can come in. Because some of the students might say, I've got 5 days work and 5 units, and I'm overwhelmed with this assignment. So there's a lot of different layers of complexity there. So my answer would be, here is a checklist that will help you tick off all the rubrics to a pass level. And I get back an answer in the email later, or maybe on the Padlet saying, thank you so much, subs. This really helps. I will not leave anything that can make me fail now because you have put the checklist in there. So it's things like that. It is totally related to your unit. It is not outside world that I'm talking about to go, what are you feeling today? No, 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 no. That is not structured learning. You need that structure where these students are telling you what is it that's stopping them from progressing in that unit, in the lesson today. And being, and like you said, males, it's all about positive culture where they will want to tell you what they feel, not based on the gender, is what I haven't seen. I've actually read 791 emotion diaries from both classes, and everyone consented to being in that research, both males and females. So I think it's about the relationship, the rapport you have, and why are you doing this, and who will it help, and how.
Right. Thank you for that further explanation. I mean, I remember I had one teacher, every time we got into the class, he would say something like, oh, my wife got mad at me this morning. And he started telling the stories for like 20 minutes about that. So I think it influenced the way, the atmosphere of the class. Right. So I think it's related to what Amin says about the emotion of the teacher. Right. Next time you hear something like that, you should quote Dr. Suba, yeah? I think we should invite her to come to Indonesia, yeah? Yeah. Oh, we're inviting you, okay? We're gonna do that. Bu Santi, yeah? Bu Santi will buy you tickets.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, right. So we hope that you will be here in person, and let's see if we can do the activities and maybe leading a workshop. That would be great. So one more question. We have one from lecturer, and then do we have one more from the student? Guys, girls, come on. No? Online participant. Sorry, we're leaving you outside. No, you're still a part of this. Are you there? Online participant? Oh, okay. Unpleasant. Unpleasant. No, okay. Yes. Ma'am. Yep. Take it away.
Hi. Hello, Dr. Suba. Thank you so
Hi.
much for insightful talk. My name is Adiba, and currently I'm teaching speaking and writing. Both skills are very scary for students in English education program. So I observed that during my classes, teaching my classes, that this unpleasant emotion comes not only from like um, also comes from, I think, like the proficiency level of my students, because like no matter activity that I give them, if I believe they don't have the confidence and the proficiency to actually carry the activity, they will have this unpleasant kind of like anxiety, nervous, and so on. Yeah. So I'd like to know about that. What's your thought about that? Thank you.
That's a great question. That's a great question.
So,
Yep. Is it Ariba?
yes.
Adiba. Yeah.
Adiba. Adiba.
Ariba. Ariba.
Yeah, asking about the default emotion of student always feeling anxious whenever they are asked to speak.
Yes. So it clearly shows that the task at hand is giving them anxiety or unpleasant emotions because they don't have the skills to do that task. So as a teacher, I would try to pinpoint which skills do they need to do the task, and then have activities targeted to build those skills, and then see how their learning journey is developing. Because if they don't have skills, they can't do it, and they're feeling more and more useless and hopeless, and that's not a good feeling for a learner. So as teachers, you've had a great, you've identified awesome, aspect of this learning experience based on their emotion as a pedagogical evidence. Now it's up to you, Ariba, to develop those skills that are not there. So that's your emotionally informed teaching practice that you need to develop. And I'm wondering if your colleagues can help you do that. Or other colleagues who've taught these same students might have some resource. Does that answer, Ariba, does it answer your question? Because that's what I would do.
Yes,
If my students don't have
obviously,
the skill,
yeah.
I would develop the skill.
Sure, sure,
Right.
sure.
Right. Yes. The skill here. Right. It's a big, big, big homework. Okay. Like it feels like if you're not there yet in the zone of achieving the target of learning, you're always gonna be emotionally challenged. I hope I'm using the right phrase here. Yeah, we have a problem with the proficiency needed to be in the English education study program. That's our problem. I have to be honest with this, and it creates this massive anxiety whenever this, I would say, challenge bocor. Okay, right. So every time this is a problem. So what you said about we have to work on the skill and work on that and see how they emotionally respond to that. I think it's a very spot on advice from an expert like you. Now I'm aware of the time that we have. So what I'm gonna do now is to invite Dr. Suba just to have one conclusive remark and maybe a more like message for us to the lecturers and also the students. And that would be like, I don't know, around 3 to 4 minutes, please.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And I am very honored to be able to share with you my passion, which is that no one should fail in my class. That's basically that's why I'm always excited to teach. So it is not something that has happened overnight. It is something that has developed, and it takes time to develop in your own classroom. Repetition, sharing results of what we are doing together and how it's improving our class, sharing that with your class will make them believe in the practice. And when they believe, you have made a rapport with your students, you have put a seed into your pre-service teacher students that they will take to their classrooms. So it is something that give it a try. And you know what? There are some people, many people, who do not naturally gravitate towards feelings. It's probably the way they've been brought up, their own personal circumstances. There are people who cannot do this because they do not believe in it, the power of emotion as a pedagogical evidence. It takes different types of people to do this to believe in the power of this, I would say. So give it a shot. Reflect on what you do well as a teacher, what can be improved, because at the end of the day, teachers should never stop learning. I never stop learning, and reflective practice is part of our profession. We can never say we know it all. And, what better thing than to try something new today and trial it out and see what worked, what didn't work, and share, and the other teacher educators can share with each other. I actually worked on emotion exit tickets. I worked on emotion diaries, and this is what my students said. Reflect on it. It could be a staff room, meeting. Trial something out and hear from the student voice. If we don't listen to our student voice, we're not teaching people who are living. So I hope that you got something out of this today, and I hope that many more students are heard.
Wow, that's a beautiful message. Big applause, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
To close this session, I would like to do something challenging and maybe a little, Can you please stay with us for the next 5 minutes for a photo
Sure.
session?
Sure.
Now, you see this big screen, everybody? Can you please help me come here? And then let's a very good photo where we will stand here and get close to Dr. Suba. Okay? Can we please have like 15 students from here? Can we do it in 15 seconds? Well, can you please stand up? Up. Student, come here. Stand up. No, no. I want you to come here. Come. I will give you, okay, stay with us. We will gonna have a very good picture here. I'm still the moderator. I still have the power here. Come on. Come on. Come on here. Can you please, boys, see? Lelaki tidak bercerita, come on here. Okay. Quick. Now, okay. One. Come on. Come on. Okay. Ready? Practice on that. Okay. Smile. Jangan malu-malu. Question. Silakan kok. Oke ya. Oke. One. Now here. One. Follow me. First. No. One. Now. One. And then now it's time for our masters of ceremony to take the closing stage. Thank you very much, everybody, for your attention. And I'm signing off the stage. Thank you very much for giving me the chance to be the moderator. And then this one building, Aula Gedung D, deserves an applause. This has been a really great room to have a conference in. I can feel that. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Dr. Suba, thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
so much. Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you to our honorable speaker, Dr. Subasi Apana, for the enlightening and valuable presentation, and so that we can understand how students' emotional experiences can inform more responsive and effective teaching practice. Okay, and also our appreciation goes to the moderator for guiding the session smoothly.
Ladies and gentlemen, as we come to the end of today's public lecture, I would like to invite Dr. Santi Parmasari, MED TESOL, to officially close today's guest lecture. Please welcome Dr. Santi Parmasari, MED. Okay.
Oh, that's sweet.
Kerjain sama moderator kita sih ya. Okay, wow. We've been emotionally in touch with Dr. Suba's presentation. Okay, so a closing remark. Well, actually, I was about to ask a questions and a concern about emotionally responsive teaching, but then the moderator was quite busy with the photo session. Okay. Yeah, we know that in Indonesian's latest curriculum, we are mandated, to apply, to implement what we call deep learning framework, in which one of the principles is mindful learning atau pembelajaran menggembirakan ya adik-adik ya. So mindful learning, Dr. Suba. So that is one of three important pillars in our latest curriculum framework at the moment. So your talk was actually very, what is that? Oh, yeah. I was about to share a memory with Dr. Suba. There's us. I think that photos was back in 2020. We call
Yes.
our gang B343 because we were occupied in the same room, PhD room. And that is how we stay emotionally stable. So we share coffee, we share talks, and also listen to each other's problems. Thank you, Alvin. Okay, so to close our great guest lecture today, I'd like to actually read concluding sentences, I probably call it, concluding sentences that I tried to write down in my phone. So, informed by and grounded in the deep learning framework, which emphasize meaningful, mindful, and joyful learning, I believe that Dr. Suba's presentation has demonstrated the students' emotions as central to achieving high quality learning outcomes in Indonesian school contexts. We believe that emotional signals such as confusion, anxiety, frustration are not obstacles to avoid. They are not obstacles, but indicators that may guide us as teachers and also pre-service teachers in designing scaffolding, relevant, and engaging learning experiences. By integrating emotional awareness into teaching practices, educators can strengthen student engagement, resilience, and participation, while also enhancing their own agency in addressing classroom challenges. I hope that these closing remarks click or ring the bells, with Dr. Suba's presentation. And of course, nothing that we can say except a great appreciations to Dr. Suba for the time and also for the energy brought to us today. And of course, as you know, most of the participants here were asking me to invite you on site. Probably we don't know yet. We hope that we can, invite you on site this year because we have every year we have international conference where we had several keynote speakers from different countries. So we were trying to see whether our budgeting whether we will be sufficient to send you here, Dr. Suba. By the way, again, we do thank you for the presentations, and we are very honored and also blessed to have you today. And of course, on behalf of the faculty, we hope that this guest lecture may become a fruitful academic forum, not only for lecturers, but also for our students, pre-service English teachers at English language education department. Once again, thank you very much, and we do apologize for any inconvenience during the preparations and also the implementation of the guest lecture. And we do hope that we can meet again in different guest lecture, everyone. And Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon. Suba, thank you so much. Thank you so much, mate.
Thank you so much, Santi. This was been amazing. Thank you so much. And those memories, those pictures brought back memories of tears as we develop
know.
resilience.
Yes, we were very multicultural. That photos, the students were from Vietnam, Australia, Indonesia, Pakistan,
Nepal.
Brazilian, Nepal, yeah, Nepal. We were very multicultural. And also your Zoom background, Suba, the huge hanging balls and the small park there at Building E.
Yep.
Yeah.
You remember it all. Well, I thank you so much,
Yeah.
everybody, and
Thank you so much.
keep in touch for collaboration in future. I am more than looking
Yes.
forward to it.
Okay. Say
Bye
hello
for-
to your family.
I will. Take care, loves.
Take care, mate.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Santi Parmasari, MED TESOL, for the insightful closing remarks and also the closing sentences. And we hope that today's session brings meaningful insights and contributes to our academic and professional development. Finally, as the master of ceremony, I would like to apologize for any shortcomings during the event. And thank you very much for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and have a wonderful day, everyone.